to me, I was watching crossover last night, and when Josh at one point he's like, "Hey, who's your favorite rap artist? Put it in the chat." And I was busy; my hands were doing something else. I didn't type away, but people start putting in all these names, and someone types in Eminem, and Josh like, "Yeah, that's a good one, Eminem." And then he's mentioned Nelly later on, and Nelly's someone I remember listening to Nelly like hardcore in 2000, 2001, right? And then he also mentioned Justin Timberlake, and I'm like, I have a lot of respect for Justin Timberlake. Like the guy can sing, the guy can act. Like he's JT's the real deal. He's a performer for sure.
Very talented guy.
And being in Canada, Justin Bieber's Canadian, right? Drake is Canadian. Two of the biggest recording artists going are Canadian. So we're kind of proud of them. And I saw Justin Bieber on Saturday Night Live like a month ago, and that song he sang, whatever it's called, Lonely or something like that, the guy's got pipes. He can sing. Love him or hate him, the guy's got a good voice.
Oh yeah, no, it was a YouTube video that kind of put him on the map to begin with when he was a kid playing guitar and singing. Extremely talented, prodigy, right? That's what you would call like a child who's very gifted, a prodigy, to be sure. And crossover, man, it goes off the rails sometimes. Last night we talked about like mid-2000s rap for an hour. We once talked about The Office for more than an hour.
My favorite all-time show. I missed that episode.
Oh, okay. I'll have to send you the link to it. You would get a kick out of it.
Yeah, do, because that is, I watched that show on Netflix from like season 1, episode 1 till the end, and then I just started over again. I'm always watching The Office on Netflix, no matter what.
Yeah,
I love it.
You can put it on in the background if you want. You can pay attention if you want. It's good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And when you've seen it 6 times, you don't necessarily need to hear every word that they're saying anymore, right?
True.
All right. Who do we got joined? Native Card Guys back. Hello. Frankie's with us. Round 2. Hello,
Frankie.
Chris says Beastie Boys. Yeah, I'm a Beastie Boys fan as well. Charles, welcome to the sequel. That's right. Native Car Guy. What did I just come into? Yeah, we're talking about some rap there, buddy. Seb says Justin can act, but do we really want him to? I thought he was awesome in the Facebook movie, playing the guy from Napster, Sean something or other, right? He was great, and I'm like so believable. I do want him to act. I like watching Justin Timberlake. I think he's great.
Yeah, legit actor.
Yeah, Victor, all-time greats. Welcome to the show, buddy. Good evening. And Victor, I just want to say congrats on reworking your card room in the basement. I watched the video. Nice new cards on display. Nice new shelving. Victor's hobby project is to really like hone in on what a rookie card is. What is a rookie card? So check out his videos. He does a lot of kind of philosophizing about it. Really interesting stuff. Brent, welcome to Overtime. After Hours. You confused me there. Ghetto Boy says Native Card Killer. Happy New Year to you, buddy. Happy New Year to you.
Card Killer. Let's go.
Happy New Year again to you, Ziggy. Paul C, good evening to you. Card Killer's here. Hello again, Terry. We got Brian back. We got Cardboard Nostalgia back. Timberlake is decent in a movie called Alpha Dog also. Yes, I haven't seen it. I got to see it. Hockey Guy says, what are those gloves behind you, Jeremy? Eric says, hi, guys. Ray says, Menudo. Hilarious, Menudo. And Ozcard, have you seen both versions of The Office? So I started watching the UK version, and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. So I just kind of stopped.
Not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same, but it's very similar. So what these are a set of rookie or second year Teemu Selanne game worn Winnipeg Jets gloves. And when I say game worn, I mean like these are really game worn, like well worn, like holes in them and everything. These would make for some great, like look at that right there, like game worn Teemu Selanne gloves. And there's even a silver autograph on there that is, you can kind of see it, but it's even kind of not on there great. But yeah, game worn Teemu gloves. And the other glove is autographed by him too. So that's what those are. I'll just throw them on the floor behind me for now. Thanks for asking. Well, after I got, that's a Teemu Selanne jersey that Steve Menzie from the Sport Card Expo gave me as a gift this year. And I thought, hey, I got the jersey now with the autograph. I got to get my old gloves and hang them nearby. So that's what they are. Thanks for letting me show. I've never showed those before. So thanks, Oscar Dad. Okay, Seb says, first question, Chris, where do we make girlfriends? How do we make girlfriends that like their like car? Because Chris is living the life. Is who Chris is who we all want to be in the hobby. He collects great cards. Has a business in the hobby, but the icing on top is that his girlfriend collects cards as hard as he does. Who else can say that?
Yeah, it may have even been a bridge too far because I believe her reputation now is being better than me at collecting cards. So too much of any good thing is not good, maybe. But how do you make your girlfriend like cards? Well, all I can do is tell you how Christina got into it. And I keep looking over here because she's over here right now, like silent as a mouse, snickering to herself. She got into cards with me at the same time when I got back into cards. I started going through my old cards, and then we kind of said, wouldn't it be fun to open some new cards? And we got some boxes, and she really enjoyed opening boxes. So maybe that's the root, is opening new stuff. That can be really fun. Opening new products.
And the smell of those shiny cards too, right?
The smell is very important. We talked about the smell for like 5 minutes last night on the cross. How important smell is.
Vegas Finds, welcome back, buddy. Welcome back. Card Porn says the battle of the Chrome Domes. That's right.
So Jeremy is the best looking Chrome Dome in the hobby, and I'll take my place somewhere beneath in the hierarchy. So it's always nice to be side to side with the fellow Chrome Dome. I'm rolling with Chrome Dome from here on out. I think that's awesome.
I've been doing this since I was about 25. I don't think I'm ever going to stop. All right, we have a question. We have a question here from Hockey. This is on point for you. North America has 4 to 5 main sports. Presently is mostly basketball cards. When do you see Card Ladder's database increasing in a serious way outside of basketball cards?
Yeah, terrific question. The quickest way that would happen would be if our submissions portal reflected it. So one of the things that we do to democratize the process of which sports cards get added is we permit any member of the site to submit a request, and then those requests are all put into what's called our submissions portal. And then cards rise and fall in that portal according to upvoting and downvoting. So there's about 4,300 cards, I think, in the submissions portal right now. So a lot of cards fighting for attention. And when cards rise to the top of it, we usually knock them out that day. I mean, I would say on any given day, at least the top 2 to 4 cards get added at a minimum. So now I understand that democratizing that process is not a perfect answer to that question, because, just because, a handful of people or however many vote it up, that's not necessarily representative of A, what the most popular card at the moment is, and B, even if a card is popular at the moment, there might be more qualified stuff to enter into the database. So to address that, Christina's task as a researcher over the last few weeks has been systematically adding at least one key rookie card, and oftentimes several, of every relevant player who has a sales history from every draft class going back to 2012. And we did basketball first, then we just did football. Maybe hockey will be on the agenda next. Not quite sure.
Hockey, Christina, hockey.
There you go. So, that's how we try to do it. A lot of soccer cards have risen up lately, but up the submissions portal. So I just actually got done adding some soccer stuff from 2019 Topps Chrome. So that's just kind of the nuts and bolts of how that works. Is these are the methods that we have. Now, the obvious other answer is that we get more researchers. But I'll tell you that I'm very careful and extremely skeptical of who can be a researcher. It's not very different, I think, from when a grading company decides to hire a grader. You need somebody who really knows the hobby, who really knows cards, and really has a passion for it, and doesn't mind sitting in a room for 10 to 12 hours a day and doing it for pretty humble pay. And there's not many people out there who meet that criteria. So, be patient with us when we can offer maybe better pay. that opportunity, that we might be able to add more qualified researchers in a quicker fashion.
Yeah, and it's like I mentioned with Josh earlier tonight that, I mean, every business takes time to build up, and you guys could have waited another year to build up your database, but you didn't. You came out with 3,000 cards, and I think you come out as quick as you can and you build, and your customers, your loyal customers, will be patient with you. I know I certainly would be, and I think you can only do what you can do, and it's just important to get out of the gate and get started, and then not only because you want to get going, but now you're going to hear from people. You're going to get some great feedback, and I think you guys are wise enough to consider that feedback and use it, and even ask for it. And I know you've done that before. So
yeah, no, well said. And also on that topic too, it takes time. No, there has never been, to my knowledge, a systematic inquiry into the collection and aggregation of historical sports card data that had as its primary focus the accuracy of that data. And in undertaking a task like that, you learn a lot of things along the way, a lot. And there's really no good reason to rush that process and potentially compound errors that otherwise would have been able to be smoothed out by slowly proceeding and learning the data science dimension of this. And at this point in time, 6 months in, adding cards at a pretty substantial rate of about 30 to 50 a day. Through that process, we've learned an enormous amount about how to efficiently and accurately create properly tailored search queries that are effective on a number of different databases that allow us to, build sales histories that we can say with our full confidence that they're credible. So, that's kind of a long gobbledygook way of just saying that there is a lot recommending going slow and figuring out how to do this properly. And that means that when we do scale, and I think we are nearing that time, when we do scale, we will have the proper methodologies in place to train people in a way that ensures the credibility of that data, even if it's not me and Christina in particular who are doing it. So I understand it's probably a frustrating answer, but that's just kind of our point of view on it.
Man, I think it's the only answer right now, considering the situation. You could always hire more researchers, but you're not at that point yet, and you got to make sure you hire the right people. So I get it completely. There's been a lot of questions about these gloves, and in particular, do they still stink? I bet they do. Ryan says those gloves are amazing. Yep. Paul wants to know how bad they smell. Oz Cardad says they're season worn by the look of them. Yeah, Bobby.
That's what I thought too.
Bobby says holes are respected, more respect in gloves with more holes. Adam says, what did they smell like? Amish Dave Archer says hello and takes the pressure off me to smell these things. Thank you, Amish Dave Archer. But I'm gonna smell these right now.
Go for it. Yeah.
They don't smell like anything. Oh, that one didn't smell great. They're old though. Like I've literally had these hanging in my house for I probably bought these 10 years ago. So I've had them for a very long time. And they're not for sale to any of the card companies who might be watching. Although that would be kind of cool, but no, I think I'll keep them. Here's a Hockey Hawk. Is any chance of the crossover being live on YouTube instead of on Instagram?
That would be fun. If we need to figure out how to simulcast, I think, because Josh in particular has a substantial number of followers on Instagram. So you're talking, I think it's over 10,000. So, big audience over there, big audience over there, but there's a big audience on YouTube too. I'm no heavyweight like Sports Cards Live, but we could probably pull a few people on YouTube too. We just need to figure out how to simulcast it, I think, is really what needs to happen. If there even is a way to do that.
It doesn't work with StreamYard, which is what I use to simulcast to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Instagram just isn't part of that group yet, but maybe eventually. Seb has a second question. Chris, do you collect cards only to be with Christina?
Oh,
say yes. Just say yes. Just say yes.
He or she has figured it out. Yes. The answer is yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, good. It was good. Billy says Gervais was playing an idiot. Carell was playing a lovable idiot. If you watch the Office edition, Steve Carell was born to play Michael Scott. I agree 100%. Agree 100%. Native Card Guy had Timu gloves, stick, an extra autographed jersey, and autographed Young Guns. All stolen. My family was kicked out. That sucks. Too bad. Sorry to hear that. Bob Diggity says, oh my God, imagine not having that dreadful feeling of figuring out how to get the okay on purchases. Yeah, it's nice if your wife or girlfriend is like, buy it, buy the card, buy the card. Michael Pinkerton, hello to you.
What's up, Mike?
Said we should all shave our head for the next national. That'd be pretty funny. That'd be pretty funny. I like this. Joe says it's close, guys. Joe says it's close, guys. It's close. I think on who's better looking. I'd give it to you, Chris. I'd give it to you.
No. Look, especially when you have the rugged look going here with the stubble and everything. I can't compete with that.
So my holidays end. I go back to work on Monday. So yeah. Frankie says I may have sent a few for upload to Card Ladder, a few cards of his own for sure. And I do believe he's the guy that does submit a bunch. But because on Card Ladder, Card Ladder does a bunch of different things. Okay. I mean, you have the My Collection tool, which I use. I've got, I think, like 83 cards that are in the My Collection on my Card Ladder account so that I can track the value of those specific cards. I'd add more cards, but they're not in the database yet. I'm willing to be patient until they're added. I've submitted some cards to the voting system, to the upvote, the democratic system, and I'll go vote for my own cards. Why not? I want to get them in there so that I can have more fun with Card Ladder. That's one thing that Card Ladder does. Another thing I like about Card Ladder is that I like the news feed area or the feed area where you guys kind of aggregate the cards that were added of the day, kind of the biggest movers. You'll do Purgatory. Talk about Purgatory. It's something that I think a lot of people might be interested in. And listen, let's just take a second. I'm going to do one or two more comments, and then I'm going to let you go off for a while, Chris. We're going to get into the data because there's questions about this. Okay. First, I just want to say here, Josh posts, Chris explains Card Ladder so much better than I do.
I don't know. The way he closed the show was quite good, I thought.
He does good. He does it well. And then Michael says you did a good job. So, and I agree. He did a good job. So let's talk about when I mentioned Purgatory, what I meant by that is on Card Ladder, you guys vet the data of cards that sell the day before, and you do it like on a regular basis, daily. And when you vet that data, some data you're not comfortable including in your data set because you're not sure that it was a legitimate auction. Either there was shilling, or maybe it doesn't get paid, or maybe the auction finishes, but that same card is relisted the next day. I think it makes sense that a card that gets relisted the next day, that it's not included in the data set because that deal, you hear it all the time. Anytime you've ever gotten a second chance offer on eBay is because somebody didn't pay for it the first time. So that wouldn't be fair to have in the data set, or wouldn't be an accurate representation of the market to have that auction the data set. Talk a little bit about the data set, the vetting of the data, and Purgatory.
I will. It's funny hearing you keep calling it Purgatory too, just because it's a very grandiose term to describe what basically is this waiting area where cards that have odd sales patterns go to live for a while. So that's why we call it Purgatory. I wanted to say one thing. Before a piece of data is excluded from the database, the uncertainty that we have that it is not and will not be a consummated sale has to be pretty darn strong. It has to be very strong. If it's a borderline case, we're going to err on the side of admitting it and then, allowing the user to use their discretion with respect to that sale. And graphs make it really easy to do that because graphs sort of visually depict things that the mind might not be able to extrapolate when just looking at a bunch of numbers lined up next to each other. So let me talk about the data vetting process by way of example. So yesterday, Christina and I sat in this very room for around 2 to 3 hours from the hours of about 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And we individually reviewed 1,145 different sales that took place involving the 6,600 approximately number of cards in our database. We literally looked at every one of them. And most of the time, it's an extremely quick process. The way Josh has built out the software makes our job incredibly easy. We have, 10 relevant pieces of information on each sale that's just right at our fingertips. And so, after a while, you learn pretty quickly when a sale is going to get approved because it doesn't meet the criteria for exclusion. Now, of those 1,145 sales, 23 were sent to purgatory. So that's a little bit more than 2% of the sales that we tracked got sent to purgatory. Now, there's two ways to look at that. The one way to look at that is, in our estimation, only 2% of the transactions that took place merited exclusion from, based on the standards that we have for the caliber of the data set. The other way to look at it is, man, so 1 out of every 50 cards that sells on eBay is unreliable. Is that high? Is that low? There's definitely different ways that people could interpret that information. But while we are, fanatically obsessed with making sure we have a robust data set, we also want people to be able to look at the data too. And in some cases, it probably happens once every few weeks, maybe. Somebody will look and say, you guys excluded a sale that I am the seller of. And I can tell you that sale is true. And that happens sometimes. It's great when people do that. But the reason they're able to do that is because purgatory exists. And it's a list that we publish every day to the newsfeed. And on that list, you see an eBay link and a title explaining what that link is to every single sale that got excluded. And then in addition to that, you will also see in a separate post a list of the 1,145 sales that were approved yesterday. Now, 1,145 is a small number. In some cases, we've approved over 2,000 sales over the course of a day, and that can become laborious. But the vision and the goal from day one, and it's even stronger now, is that we assemble a data set that has credibility and that can lend integrity to the hobby in a way that machine vetting or auto approval of data simply can't do. And we also find that from the perspective of business, it's a terrific competitive advantage. Here we have people with the unique combination of knowledge of the hobby, an affinity for research, and a strong passion for integrity, and the importance of having data that we can rely on in the hobby. And, we pour countless hours into making sure that at least one place out there in the world has this type of data. Now, for people who, don't want the vetting, go look at eBay Sold and Completed. Use the terrific tools out there like sportscards.com, which is a website that provides a price database and that has best offer completed data that's fairly reliable, although it doesn't always display. Use eBay's tool, Terapeak. That's another place where you can put in search terms, and Terapeak goes back a year. Sportscards.com goes back 2 to 3. Terapeak is the most reliable data set in the hobby. It's coming directly from eBay, and it's a very affordable monthly rate. Use 130point.com. Terrific website and resource, not just for completed and sold, but also for checklists and information about the hobby. The thing that I think distinguishes us and makes our data set special is that whether you're looking at a data point from 2004 that somebody had to personally approve, or you're looking at a data set from yesterday, in any of those instances, a human being with knowledge of the hobby said, I think this data point is reliable enough that it can be put in front of people. Now, will we make mistakes? Yes. And will there be inaccuracies due to human error or due to ignorance? Absolutely. Those things can absolutely happen. But we sure as heck are giving it our very best effort to make sure that when we present this website to the public and when we present this data set as a representation of the hobby, that we can say with full confidence, we believe every data point in there is good to go.
Awesome. Let me throw up a couple comments here. Sports Card Analytics said, and this is already 12 minutes ago, the data accuracy is what we need as investors and collectors. The time used to make sure it's correct is appreciated, and it helps accurately identify a trend to make appropriate decisions. Next comment from Yamwax. You guys are authenticator of sales prices. Now I'll stop there on those two comments because I agree wholeheartedly with both of them. The fact that you guys take the time to vet the data for the rest of the hobby, I feel like is a great service. And I hope you guys are making enough money to pay yourselves for this time, because I know it's laborious and it's and tedious, right? I mean, you guys must, I don't know how, you must just be exhausted at the end of a day of going through this. But I think like you said, it's a competitive advantage. And I think that the hobby needs it, and that you guys saw that need and executed. I mean, executing is the difference between, success and failure and all that, right? You guys are doing a great job of executing on this. So I think that's great. And I think that's what you're speaking to. And it's obviously, I've recognized it since day one. Well, whatever day I learned that that's what you were doing. And these other guys are as well. Bobby Burrell says, slow and steady in a fast-paced market is your challenge. Good business model. Yeah, speaking to it. Slowly build, chip away, 30 to 50 cards a day. Chip away, right? Okay, here's a question. Ziggy has a question. He says, can you explain the process to verify a sale? You just did that. I assume you don't need to validate auctions from auction houses. Are you going to verify social media sales? How would you even do that, Chris?
Yeah, so wait, can you leave that up there so that I can, it was
Sorry,
like a question. Thank you, my friend. I also want to acknowledge Jordan of Sports Card Analytics. Really fun, great guy. Love his content too. Shout out to him, and shout out to Yamwax, who in one fell swoop rivaled Lameme James for having the meme of the year for that climbing guy.
Climber.
Oh my God, that was outstanding. Okay, so the process to verify a sale is the first of what appears to be 4 questions, or 4 comments and questions here. The process to verify is basically this. It's going to morph depending upon the card. And that's why it's important that you have researchers who develop card profiles for specific cards, and in doing so, develop a robust knowledge of it. So, for example, when you're using Card Ladder and you look at a card's profile, you're often going to see a link to either Trading Card Database or Cardboard Connection, or both. And in some cases, even links to YouTube channels and content creators discussing a card or a set. And that's there for the user's edification, so that the user can go and look. But it's also there because whoever the researcher is who added that card, it's one of our requirements that that researcher fully understands and comprehends the set that it comes from, understands all of its parallels, any potential variations, any errors, especially if we're talking about vintage cards. They need to understand before they just add a Mickey Mantle card from submissions. What's the difference between a gray back and a white back? It's just a lot of research that gets done on the front end in order to, do the verification process. Because when you verify sales, all sorts of shenanigans, intentional and unintentional, can find their way into eBay listings. Probably the most common is a mistitle or a mislabel of an item on eBay. For example, a card is labeled as a PSA 10, but in fact, the slab depicted in the photograph is a PSA 9. Something that we see that's rampant in vintage cards is a card might be a PSA 6 listing, that's its eBay title, but the card itself, when you actually look at a picture of the slab, there's a qualifier. Maybe it's miscut, maybe it's off-centered, maybe there's a print defect, maybe there's a stain, maybe it's out of focus. So these are part of some of the very preliminary reasons why data absolutely needs to be vetted, because the alternative is a automation process whereby items are imported into a data set based on the listing title. So if somebody is poring over a data set and they're automatically importing based on how a seller labeled their eBay listing, in that case, then in effect, the person who's doing the vetting is the eBay seller. And in a number of instances, for example, yesterday in 2% of the instances, there was something meriting exclusion to that effect. So that's the very first part of vetting, is just making sure that the eBay item listing title is properly depicting what the photograph shows. Now, if it passes that threshold, then the next step is investigating the actual sales dimensions of the card itself. So, for example, if it's an auction, if the price of the auction is either too high or too low relative to the last sale, then immediately that merits investigation. We have certain thresholds that trigger the need for investigation depending upon the card. Now, if the sale is too low, the first indicator that you want to look for is whether or not the seller ended the item early, because there are instances where an auction gets ended early and bidding therefore stops before people were preparing to make their final bids. And that happens some fraction of the time. Now, an automated data retrieval tool would import that data, and it wouldn't be able to distinguish between an item that was ended early or not. And eBay's methodology of distinguishing is incredibly subtle, and it took me quite some time to figure out how that worked. And that's in all fairness, that's a proprietary advantage that people who actually spend time in the data acquire. So that, for example, that's a piece of data that is not representative of a truly completed auction. Now, on the other hand, if a price goes too high relative to the last sale, then you also want to look at the eBay listing, but you want to look at it for different indicia. So now we're not looking to see if it ended too early, although it could be possible that it did. Now what we're looking for is the prevalence of low feedback bidders, the prevalence of bidders who have excessively high participation in bidding with that particular seller, which is a data set that eBay does provide, but it's kind of difficult to get to. We're looking for the incidence of incremental bidding patterns. Now, none of those things in isolation necessarily indicate that anything suspicious is afoot that would cause us, or that would reflect the fact that the sale wouldn't be consummated. But if you take a number of those criteria in combination with the fact that the item went over market price, now we're starting to get suspicious. And then if you throw in other factors too, such as a low feedback seller, there's a number of red flags raised. But the biggest determining factor for us in this vetting process, if there's been something to raise our suspicion, is we will look at eBay using our curated search links, and we will see if there are other items of this, if there are other copies of the same item for sale on eBay. And if there are, and if those items are substantially lower than the price that this item allegedly ended at, that's kind of the last nail in the items in this particular sales coffin. So to give a clear example of an outlier sale that would be excluded, suppose you had a Luka Doncic Prism-based PSA 10. Suppose that it was at auction, and the auction says it ended for $4,000. Now, one of the things we'll be able to see when we're doing our data review process is that card last sold for, let's say, $1,925. And then the researcher will have a knowledge of that card that they built up from when they first created his profile and when they constructed its all-time sales history. So they'll know that the population is 15,000, and they'll know that this is a card that probably has a lot of copies on eBay. So let's say that they open it, they look at the bid history on that particular item, and they see that, there's two zero feedback buyers who are bidding against each other, and the last non-zero feedback bidder was at $1,800, and then these two guys went back and forth for the final hour, bidding against each other until it got up to 4,000. Okay, that's an immediate red flag. Then we would go, and the researcher would look on eBay, and they would say, wait a minute, there's 200 copies of this card on eBay, and all of them are priced at $2,000 or less. So how likely is it that somebody would have paid $4,000 for this card, getting into a bidding war with another account, when there's literally hundreds of other copies on eBay for half the price? That's a clear example of something that would be excluded. Now, with that being said, the fact that it's excluded from our database, which, we put an incredible amount of importance on the integrity of the data set, nonetheless, people could still view that sale. It would be in the purgatory list. So that's an insight into how that process works. But the other thing about that process is that we've developed this process by actually doing the work ourselves. And if anybody else wants to start doing what we're doing, don't just try to copy my process. You need to do the work yourself, and you need to figure out and look for indicia in other patterns and trends, because what I've told you is just one piece of insight. There's layers and layers to this, and it has to come from the combination of training and experience. Now, the question of, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to say something, buddy?
Nope.
Okay. The question of where are you verifying? So if the question is what is the location source of the sales, we have eBay as a primary source and a terrific source of sports card data. It's just a wealth of information. We also use Golden Auctions. We use Heritage Auctions. We use Robert Edwards. We use, Mile High, which just had like a monstrous auction end. There's probably several others that are not coming to mind. Leland's, we just added a Zion Prism Gold from Leland's. We use those as some of the inputs for contemporaneous tracking of sales and historical. And that data is all accessible. And anybody who has used the site knows that. So that data is accessible by simply clicking on a button called View All Sales. And you can go back and you can click links that will take you to Golden Auctions or Heritage or eBay or wherever the source was. Every data point that we've contemporaneously scraped is sourced.
So I just want to, so any card that has a profile on Card Ladder, if I go to that card's profile, there's a link that will show me all the sales that you guys have in the database that occurred. Like everything is there. There's nothing that isn't there that is part of the data set. If you guys are putting a value on a card or not, you're reflecting a card's value, we can go back as users and see what you're basing it on. It's all there.
Yes, you can.
Okay. What about the final question from Ziggy on social media?
Well, let me talk to the penultimate point, which was I assume you don't need to validate auctions from auction houses. That's a silly assumption. All data needs to be scrutinized for the characteristics that would make it an outlier. Now, when it comes to the unfortunate decision, for example, by PWCC to make private bidding, which was a recent decision, that makes our job harder. And it is going to lead us to be likelier to exclude those auctions if it's a close call, particularly because when that transparency isn't there and we're having to put our credibility on the line that we believe that this sale will be consummated, we're less willing to do that when the transparency is not quite there. So that was a very unfortunate decision, in my opinion, as a researcher and as somebody who is interested in whose mission statement and whose business is built on the idea of having transparency and data integrity in sports cards. So absolutely, auction houses need to be vetted, and that goes for all of them. It is possible, although it is less likely, it is possible that even those great leading auction houses that have tremendous buyers that have been vetted, it is possible that even one of those buyers may not pay for that item. And I know that several of those great auction houses do not include those data, that data set into their auction archive if it's not paid. And that's a terrific service to the hobby that those auction houses do. Final question. Are you going to verify social media sales? This question betrays a total misunderstanding of how data scraping and data allocation works. To verify a social media sale, you would need a methodology that would allow you to systematically track contemporaneously every day incoming sales in a fashion that allows researchers to go through them without sitting on Twitter and saying, well, look, this guy's having a fire sale and here's 1,000 cards he's selling for 99 cents each. I mean, I don't know, that's an absurd question on its face.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I don't know how you could even consider that. Okay, let's keep going. We have some more comments and questions here. Card Porn says, we watched Lefko's interview with Lior from Alt and others, including Christina. Adam was pretty soft on them as he's good friends with Lior, so only asked friendly questions. Well, then he says, Christina, on the other hand, was a much better guest and took Lior to task. What do you think about how mysterious Alt's process is? I don't really want to get into, I don't necessarily want to get into bringing other, anyway, Do you want to answer the question? I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I would love to. The card porn is an instigator, or I believe it's number of individuals behind who are instigators. I only want to get involved to this extent. Christina, not only is the star of sports cards culture, I think that feedback has been pretty unanimous, but she also stole the show when she appeared on the Surface Trade Show. And I had a number of people messaging me while she was live that they just thought she was kicking ass. And all I would say is go watch that video because she was terrific. And then on the topic of Lefko, dude, Lefko did a terrific job hosting that show. I thought he was brilliant. I thought his energy might have even rivaled yours, Jeremy, when at the end of 5 hours of conducting interviews.
So you're saying he has a better shot of going mainstream than I do?
He may already be there, in fairness to him. And I have an Adam Lefko card, by the way. I have his Topps rookie card. It's signed. Actually, Christina and I have it. It was addressed to both of us. It's numbered 23 of 50. And I'm going to proudly display that card every time I'm watching NBA and TNT and he's coming on. So I want to thank him for that. I consider him a friend, a terrific hobbyist. And, Adam just toes the line, much like Jeremy does, of, asking good questions, but being respectful to guests and different points of view.
Yeah, I've had people come down on me in the past for throwing softballs. It's like, I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not out to get anybody. I'm pretty much a glass half full kind of guy, and I don't want to scare off future guests, right? You see, if somebody sees how you treat your guests, they're not going to come on your show. So let the guests do the talking.
Let me say something else too, please.
Sure.
Card Porn has a great Instagram account, and they've acquired a lot of clout very quickly. And they brought back some of the all-time great YouTube pieces of hobby content. People ripping exquisite boxes from the mid to late 2000s, all sorts of stuff. And they also have terrific information on the recent issue of fake BGS slabs. So I also want to give them a shout out. And I think that, they bring a fun energy to the hobby and to keep going.
All right. There you go. Shout out to Card Porn, who I do also follow on Instagram. Okay. We have lots of comments, Chris, but hey, I got time if you got time, so we can go. We are like 30 minutes behind on the comments already. So to everybody watching, I'm going to sort of have to apologize for that, but I think some of these are great questions. So we're gonna really address as many of them as we can. The next one is from Ziggy. I just want you to answer this one quickly though, Chris, because it's kind of slightly off topic, but interesting nonetheless. He says, have you thought about tracking or building a registry of numbered cards? If you're paying people to verify sales, you could catalog numbered cards that are live and help determine what could still be sealed.
What I'll say is Wax Museum Podcast has a terrific RPA tracker. And Wax Museum, he's been doing that for a long time. And so in cases where it's relevant on RPAs, we link to that RPA tracker with his permission. So he's providing that service. And I can tell you that service is also a labor of love. And that that's a service that requires a lot of community sourcing. Because once again of the challenges of data collection. So what you'll see is that some of the great online communities, such as Blowout and other message boards, and you can go back and look at stuff like this. They have created through crowd efforts, through group efforts, individuals will, when a new RPA hits, and it hits eBay or it gets pulled on a break, they'll take a screenshot of it, they'll post it to this same thread, and then you sort of have this living database of that data. And that data has saved many a collector a number of times, myself included. And I know, Jeremy, you are one of the progenitors of these sorts of efforts, and in fact undertook a Herculean task in this category yourself. So, on that topic, I think that's pretty obvious to most people, but there you go.
All right, good stuff. Seb has a question. Says, could you add a selling and bidding section in Card Ladder? I would pay you 5% fees any day to sell through your platform. And if you do, goodbye eBay, and then I'll buy card ladder stock. Yeah, speak to that a bit, Chris.
It needs to be understood that eBay is a tremendously powerful platform that has been integral to the sports card hobby for going on 2 decades, maybe more. And eBay is probably always going to be integral to the hobby. I think there's definitely something to be said about the fact that eBay has probably trial and errored a number of different things, and that they arrived at the place that they're at probably for good reason. I might be wrong about that. There might be some path dependence built in, and or they just don't feel the market pressure to make certain adjustments. But I would tend to think that there's probably good reason for why they reached the point that they've reached. Now, with that said, the number one thing that eBay brings to sports cards is something very important to the hobby in general, which is the credibility of their brand. So I can speak to when I first got back into the hobby in 2016. It was certainly the credibility of the eBay brand and the familiarity with people that I knew who had used eBay to buy and sell other completely unrelated categories of items that gave me the confidence to begin engaging in transactions. So that's just kind of an indisputable facet of why eBay is a very important part, especially for newcomers. So I just want to offer some words of caution that we understand, sort of the many different important features of eBay that, for better or worse, are integral to sports cards. With that said, I will say that there are terrific opportunities in theory for a platform to emerge that would be catered to sports cards, that could build up brand recognition and integrity, and that could, potentially address a lot of the issues that people have. But it should be let it be acknowledged that Card Ladder currently is a team of 5 people, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Good answer. Thank you for that. Some of these comments are over half an hour old, so it's going to be a little awkward, but that's okay. I like I'm Eric's doppelganger. I'd like to see what you look like, Eric. Josh says my 2 favorite bald guys right here. Hey, I'll take that. Me and Josh don't know each other that well, but hey, I'll be one of his favorite bald guys for sure. Let's see what else we have here. Dex Flow says, I might give Card Ladder a try. I've got market movers right now, mostly for the Discord, which Ziggy says is free anyway. Hockey says, are Chris and Christina going to do a Card Ladder Christmas album? I mean, that's it's a great question. Yes. Great question. And pardon me as I scan some of these comments, guys, but there's a lot here. So I want to make sure I pick out the ones that I definitely do want to. Oh, here's one. What happens if 64,000 purchases happen in a day? How would you vet the data?
Terrific question. One of the fascinating things that I've learned, a counterintuitive fact, or at least an observation that's been true over the last half year since we launched on June 23rd, is that one would assume that the number of sales that a card has over the course of a year would be evenly distributed across each day. So if the Luka Prism-based PSA 10 sells 365 times, one would assume that it sells once a day. In fact, that is not at all how the market moves. Instead, supposing that Luka Prism-based PSA 10 sold 365 times, it's very likely that half or more of those sales occurred in obvious moments when you think about it, such as preseason NBA, or after he has a big game, or going into the playoffs. So the insight to be gleaned from this is that even as you add more and more cards, and this is one thing that recommends diversification of the database, these cards do not sell at the same time or in even amounts. So you have the cyclical thing going on where basketball will sell a lot in 1 month and baseball won't sell much at all. Football will sell a lot in 1 month and basketball won't sell much at all. So that's one thing that kind of occurs, is that there's not this perfect distribution of sales. But then the second thing that occurs is that there's also a finite amount of money in the hobby. And right now, our bigger days that we track over the last month have seen $2 million plus dollars worth of sales. When you start getting to that level and you sort of think, let's say that I can think of one particular $2 million day where it was all eBay. So that means, you extrapolate that 700 million a year in sports card sales on eBay is a tremendous amount. I don't know what the exact dollar amount spent on sports cards on eBay over the course of a year is, but I think we're sooner than later, we're going to be brushing up against it. So there's also something very finite about it. And then you also have to take into consideration that the vast majority of of quantity of sales are cards that just aren't relevant to track in our database. 50-cent base cards and stuff like that just aren't being tracked right now, and they won't be tracked anytime soon. I think on any given day, the average price of a card that we track is at least a couple $100. So like yesterday, I think we did 1,145 sales, and we tracked about $800,000 worth of sales. So somebody who's a little more alert than me at this late hour can take 800,000 and divide it by about 1,100, and then there you get the average price of a card sold in our database. So it was very pleasing to discover that there are certain safeguards that will prevent that from happening. The fact that not everything sells every day, that it gets spread out and it's seasonal. And then B, the fact that there's just a finite amount of money ultimately that gets spent in the hobby. And I think we're starting to come up against it. And when you think about 6,600 slabs in the database right now, and you think about the fact that we've tailored it I shouldn't say slabs because we have raw cards too, but it's mostly slabs. We've tailored it to the most relevant cards in the hobby for the most part, although certainly we still could use more. I just don't really worry too much about that. But if and when we do get to a point where instead of, 2,000 sales a day, we're at 5,000, well, I think we'll be at a point in time there where we'll be able to bring another person on and or develop other methodologies that'll help us sift through that.
Okay, man. I did say, address it quickly, but you're a guy who you're so methodical and complete in your thoughts that I think we have to accept that this episode is going to go for a while. And
that was quick, wasn't it? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, right. Here's a question from Michael L. And, you're going to have to address this one. He says, is price deviation the only factor in exclusion? If individuals are seeking to preserve a floor in a certain card, does your review process pick that up? Now, before you go, I want to say that to me, I am somebody who has made bids to preserve a floor on cards before that I'm willing to buy more of. So why would that matter? Why would it matter if people are bidding to preserve a floor? Because these cards would still get paid for. What's your take?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And you and Josh had an excellent discussion on this in the first hour. So the purpose is to have a database that reflects sales that are consummated. That's the only purpose. It is entirely possible, and it does happen, that sales will be extreme outliers, but they are nonetheless consummated, and that is an important part of the data set. So, for example, in 2016, there was a tremendous boom in vintage cards. And there are a number of outliers that happened over the summer of 2016 that were paid for that still are all-time highs 4 years later. In the case of such an outlier, it's very important that our database reflects that data point because it tells an extremely important story of speculative run-ups in the hobby. And similarly, we might be contemporaneously documenting speculative run-up. And so we want to make sure that every consummated sale gets reflected. The only thing that we want to exclude are sales that are extremely unlikely to be consummated. And then, just to pinpoint it real quick with respect to people who are bidding or buying cards to preserve a floor. Again, the answer to that question is if it's a consummated sale, it's a data point that we're going to admit. And we don't seek to make ethical judgments in our capacity as researchers with respect to whether that's a proper mode of behavior in the hobby. We just don't seek to do that. But I think it is a valid topic, and it is one that merits discussion. but that discussion should take place outside of the arena of categorizing and logging and chronicling data with the purpose of, reflecting consummated sales.
Okay, man. Thank you for that. I'm going to skip way ahead to a comment from 5 minutes ago, and then we're going to come back because I want to just address this one directly. Dexflow asked, question for me, my thoughts on that Nolan Ryan SGC 7 selling for more than PSA 7 in the same golden auctions. Is SGC more superior in vintage? No. And I'm not saying they're not or they are more superior, Dexflow, but what I'm saying is that not all 7s are the same. And that's what's something that too many people in the hobby don't understand. Not all 7s are the same. Not all 6s are the same. It might be that both cards were technically correctly graded as 7s by both companies, but that the one in the SGC holder was more visually appealing, had better eye appeal. So, yeah, no, it's a hard no. And just because a card sells for more in one slab than another doesn't, it's almost not correlated to what, you can't assume that that's a general rule for all cards by those companies. I just want to make that clear before Dexflow leaves, as I did spot that one ahead in the comments. Okay, I want to do this comment by Sports Card Analytics says, in a world where manipulation on eBay is at an all-time high, this data scrubbing and purgatory is much needed. I 100% agree with that comment, Sports Card Analytics. Ziggy has a good question here. He says, where do you get your data from 2004? Is it old eBay data or auction data?
Yeah, so the sources of our data come from a variety of places. Some of our favorite sources include WorthPoint, which is a terrific source of data and is well worth the subscription, similar to Terapeak. Other sources include the aforementioned sportscards.com, Golden Auctions, Heritage Auctions, PWCC's Auction Archive, Robert Edwards Auctions. There are a number of terrific sources that have and chronicle all-time sales histories. And as people get more familiar with the hobby, as they transition from being new to more experienced, they'll discover them too.
Yeah, no doubt. There's even vintage card prices. I don't know if you just mentioned it, but I mean, there's multiple sources of all-time eBay data out there. You just have to, as you said, as you mature in the hobby, you discover more resources for sure. Okay. Another comment by Ziggy. I'll just address this one myself. Chris, he says, if you sell a card at a card show, will buyers accept card ladder comps or eBay comps? There's no straight answer for that, Ziggy. Every seller is going to, not every seller, some sellers will use whatever data benefits them most. Some people will pull out a Beckett price guide because the price will be higher there than in eBay. But buyers are sophisticated enough that most buyers just use eBay completed if they can find it. If they can't, they'll look at other options. And now Card Ladder is a bona fide secondary option to eBay completed listings, which is the go-to for most people.
Fair? Yeah, it is. Extremely fair. But the smart buyer, in my humble estimation, will use Card Ladder, but not for its data set exclusively. So let's say I'm at a card show and I'm looking at buying a Luka Prism base PSA 10. All I have to do is go to Card Ladder and type in a couple of terms, Luka Prism base, and you're going to get a predicted search response. And the PSA 10 is going to be the first one or the second one that comes up because the search results display in the order of total number of sales that we've logged for a specific card. Then they'll go to that card's profile. Now, some of the things that they're going to want to know right away are comps. You can click the View All Sales tool and you can see the comps. You can see them graphically displayed as well if you're more of a visually inclined person. But suppose that you're a person who just wants to look at eBay sold and completed. If that's the case, you just click the eBay button that we have. And then rather than having to search on eBay, Luka 280, Prism base 2018, PSA 10, minus silver, minus hyper, minus green, minus purple, minus refractor, minus gold, minus orange. In order to get a curated list of the comps that you're going to need quickly on the fly, in order for you to look at comps when you're at a show, just click our link. Because the link is a curated search that's going to take you directly to those eBay sold and completed listings. So in any event, a smart buyer will be at a tremendous advantage, both in the terms of efficiency, the presentation of information, a curated data set, which we provide, but they also, with one click of a button, can get to all eBay comps and no filler will be included. And if they're really curious, and Christina and I have done this when we're looking and trying to buy wax at a shop or at a show, We'll go look up a card that's in that product, or we'll go look up the box. We have hundreds of boxes. We'll go up the box, and then there's a link to Cardboard Connection, or there's a link to Trading Card DB, and then we can see what the checklist looks like, and we can see the variations and the parallels and go from there.
Awesome, man. Okay, thank you. This is off topic, but it's really important. I want to share this. Native Card Guy wants to, challenge everybody watching to sell a card and use that money to buy a homeless person a meal. He says, I do this every day. I think that's a really nice initiative, and I will certainly back up that request. And let's be, a lot of us in this hobby are very fortunate in that, we were maybe, we're fortunate if we live in Canada, we live in the United States. We're fortunate as it is for the most part. If you're spending money in this hobby, you can probably afford to buy a homeless person a meal and do something good. I love that. Thank you, Native Card Guy, for reminding us all to be good and kind to each other, not just in the hobby, but outside of it as well.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. That's a great lesson because you and I are interacting digitally. You probably interact with hundreds, thousands of people digitally. And when people interact digitally, sometimes they forget that, when the world hopefully does open up again, everyone will have to see each other at national, at shows, at shops. And congeniality, professionalism, humility, those are characteristics that will serve you very well. Because God forbid somebody is a person who is picking on people, bullying and intimidating, and then they show up at the national and 30 or 40 of those people that they've been attacking are also there. I sure wouldn't want to be that person.
Okay, let's keep on moving along. We have Daniel Flanagan, love the show. Do you see fake bids with higher eBay feedback ratings, or is it usually 0?
I kind of think of it in the other direction. I think if eBay feedback is 0, that's something increasing the likelihood that it's not a legitimate bid. Now that can be a faulty assumption. That's why I couch it in terms of likelihood. Because in fact, everybody at one point in time did have an eBay account that had 0 feedback. So everybody at least once bought an item and they were in fact that 0 feedback person. So I only say likelihood, but to get to the spirit of the question, I don't know. I don't know. In order to venture an answer to a question like that, I wouldn't want to go off of a hunch or off of an anecdotal answer. I would want to do something more systematic and empirical, and I just don't have that data in front of me. But it suffices to say that it is certainly possible that a person with a high feedback account would be participating in the shilling or manipulation of the market, ultimately leading to a data point that does not reflect a consummated sale.
Thank you for that. I like Josh says that Chris is the sales data goat. He's a beast. And Jordan from Sports Card Analyst says, Josh, I think he explains this better than you. And again, we're only 25 minutes behind the comments now. Trading Cards says, I love Card Ladder. It helps to get a great overview of the market. We need a hobby university where someone can go learn everything about cards, collecting, and business. Greetings from greetings to you, Trading Cards. Thanks for joining. And the real university for trading cards is getting involved in the community. The community is awesome. There's a lot of awesome people who are out there trying to do right by the hobby. And if you're tuning into the right online content, like my show as an example, and many others, you're following certain accounts on Instagram, there's people that are out there trying to help. Some Facebook groups are excellent. Some are garbage, but some are excellent. So yeah, that's, and the university is really, you just need to get there and have experience, and there's too much, you can't learn everything. There's too much product out there. You can't learn anything. So pick what you like and research it. As Chris has said, you want to research what you're doing. So I agree with that comment, but welcome from Europe, Trading Cards. Great to have you here right now. I'm not sure what this has to do with, but Slob says, but no baseball, right? I don't know if that's, again, because it's so old. Can you just speak to baseball on Card Ladder?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Tati,
you kind of did, Chris. You kind of did when you mentioned that, your users have a submission, a request tool, if you will. Is that kind of the answer again?
It is, but just to comment on it, the state of the baseball database right now, we have many big cards from Mike Trout, Jackie Robinson, Mickey Mantle. We're in the process of getting pretty much every Mickey Mantle card in. We've got, Tatis, Wander Franco. I'm not even an avid baseball fan. I am a Cubs fan, and I thoroughly enjoyed our final when we finally got the World Series a few years ago. It actually gave me one of my greatest sports moments with my dad, was watching the Cubs win that World Series Game 7. But I digress. But we do have baseball, but we do have to respond to what our users want. And while baseball does get requested and doesn't climb up the ranks from time to time, it definitely is not our most demanded sport. Excuse me.
Good stuff, man. Thank you for that. Here's a question from Bill. We bought two. He says, do you include legitimate outliers like jersey numbered, serial numbers, etc., that are part of a print run but commonly sell for a premium? And I would, and let me expand the question a little bit, Chris, by adding in like really like 7-color patches versus 1-color patches on the same card, or strong PSA 6s versus weak PSA 6s. That kind of the variation within a card or a grade or a patch, that kind of thing.
Oh, it's a terrific question. When I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Beckett, who, by the way, his most recent appearance on your show was an all-timer. I think that was one of the most insightful hour and a half of sports card talk I've ever heard from the both of you.
He's excellent.
But he's excellent. When I was talking to him, I had the opportunity to ask him, why do you think it is that the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan in a BGS 9.5 that has 2 10 subgrades and 2 9.5 subgrades, in other words, the highest possible grade, and some people would argue that 10 is centering and 10 is surface, would make it even a higher card based on how the subs are distributed, versus a BGS 9.5 with 3 9.5s and 1 9 subgrade, in other words, minimum subs. The price differential between those two historically has been as large as $60,000. In the card has the same final grade. And I asked him, why it was, and he said, well, there's the likelihood of crossing over to PSA. I'm not sure if many people are aware of this or not, but the max sub 9.5 historically has sold for more than the PSA 10. And so, it was just made an interesting discussion. And what calls that to mind is the fact that as I was talking to Dr. Beckett, I was also sort of simultaneously thinking to myself, how in the world can a card profile on Card Ladder have the min subs 9.5 and the max subs 9.5 in the same profile? And the honest answer is there's just no good, there is no good reason for it. It's the best we can do. It's literally a methodological limitation based on how data is acquired and input. So if we lived in a world where sellers and auction houses distinguished as a matter of practice the cards based on subgrades, that would make it easier to separate min sub versus max sub. But for the meantime, what will have to suffice is that on every card's profile, that especially one like that that's particularly suspicious to those sorts of fluctuations based on subgrade, in those instances, it is denoted in the card notes section of the card profile. And then same goes for in the case of legitimate outliers like jersey numbered. So I remember when I was adding Giannis's immaculate RPA to Card Ladder, and I saw one sale happen that was just obviously a huge outlier. And when that happens, obviously the researcher needs to do extra vetting. And in that case, sure enough, it was number 34 of 99. It was his jersey numbered card. And so in that instance, it is a truly consummated sale. But in order to tell the complete picture of something like that and to call users' attention to it, and it's just a fun piece of trivia, we include in the card's profile section that, hey, this sale was of the jersey numbered. And then we also will typically link directly to a source of that sale so that users can take a look at it. But terrific question. And these are the little wrinkles that come up as you're trying to build a database and organize knowledge. And yeah, there's just sometimes there really is no ideal way to do it.
Yeah, and I've noticed that in my own profile on Card Ladder where I have my collection and I've got some graded vintage, and I'll see a card I have worth $2,000 one day, you know, because that's the reason. Then it's 1,500, then it's 25, and I'm like, it kind of sucks that it brought down the overall value, because it's nice to look at your value. You want it to be high, of course, but then I look, well, I know that the next one will be a stronger PSA 6, so it might better reflect my card. But we understand that limitation into the methodology, as you very eloquently put it. So, and I really appreciate your transparency and just openness with that. Ray Santiago says, this is absolutely amazing to hear. Such good information. Glad you're enjoying it. Hockey says, this is the best ever Chris McGill interview in existence. Thank you, Jeremy and Chris. You are very welcome. Zoned, welcome to the show, says, did you think he brings on guests to explain better and learn and give? This guy's awesome. Whether that's a compliment for me or for Chris, Zoned, thank you very much. Hockey, never seen Chris direct many adjectives toward a questioner in my life. Jordan Hagedorn, appreciate you, McGill. Keep crushing data. Very excited to pick up some Bryant Reeves PSA 10s this year. Big Country. Big Country?
Yeah, Big Country Reeves.
Country Reeves, yeah. Played for the Vancouver Grizzlies back in the day.
Yes, he did.
Big Country all day. The Native Card Guy challenge, one card and everything you make goes to a meal. Yep. Okay. Thanks again, Native Card Guy. Vegas Fine says, I'm entirely satisfied with the answers Chris has given, and he has a great name as well. Chris Fines 777. Great answers from the Kings of Chrome Domes. I'm just going to read one more question here for a second. Okay, too long. Sorry, can't read it right now. Chris, answer quickly, LOL. Right, Josh? I mean, yeah, there's no such thing. I just give up on that. Yeah, 1,000 words or less. Exactly. Joe says, Christina is a wonderful ambassador for the hobby. Her focus on aesthetics and overall positivity show what's right about the hobby. Chris and Josh are pretty cool too. No doubt. Ray Santiago, Chris has used words tonight that I've had to Google search in the meanings of, and words such as gobbledygook in the same interview. Strong work. Very good. Bald after hours, says Rodman. Hi, Rodman.
Let's go.
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Shout out to Kyle. This is Joe, says, shout out to Kyle at Wax Museum Podcast. Serious hobby vigilante for the good. Hockey says, I missed the card ladder marketplace. That was short-lived. What happened there, Chris?
We just rolled out a beta test to see how it would go, and we collected a good bit of useful information, but for a number of reasons, and to keep things shorter winded, and just because, probably, we'll discuss them at a later time, we pulled the marketplace back.
All right. Native Card Guy hit us with a super sticker or whatever this is called. So thank you very much. And again, a reminder for the challenge. Card Dad says, so is any card eligible to be on Card Ladder? I ask as a collector who collects mostly lower priced cards.
Yes, it is. So we do try to strategically select when and where we will do lower price cards. So like, for example, one of the terrific contributions to the database that Christina made was adding everything from 2020 Prism basketballs, rookie class, silver, raw. And in that case, we're tracking certain cards that are $1 or less. We're not going to do every card in that price range, at least not anytime soon. But when it's particularly insightful to be able to sort of monitor the movements and the market fluctuations of like the one product that's currently out for a new draft class, we're going to take the opportunities to do that where we can. Now, with that said, if you have a lower priced card, I'm not really sure what lower priced means. It could mean many different things to many different people. We certainly have a number of cards that are under $100, but some people would consider 100, a strong mid-range price. With that said, any card that elevates to the top of Card Ladder's submissions portal will be added, as long as we can do it with confidence. So, one card that we're tracking now is a Ken Griffey Jr. Raw, one of his Raw Fleer cards. It went to the top of submissions portal. We said, hey, this is not the card that we would typically include, but we will do it. In this instance, we will include that card, and we did. And now we track it. And now every night I see that card sell 4 or 5 times, and one's for $8, one's for $1, one's for $4. Same thing for Michael Vick's Topps base card. We track that card raw. Sells for $1 here, $4 there. We do it, especially if it's what our users want. dude, we're thrilled to do it. And, you know, one of the very most satisfying parts of my job is adding a card that somebody really wanted in the database and then seeing them get to just enjoy what I enjoy, which is the collection of data over time. Just sharing that joy with somebody is one of the great nerdy perks of what I do.
You're such a nerd, man. You're such a nerd. You're the perfect guy for the job. Okay, we're gonna Tiger Jordan. Can you share examples? But I'm just gonna let you share one example of a vintage card all-time high set in 2016 that hasn't been exceeded since then. Anything come to mind?
Roberto Clemente, especially the higher grade. Roberto Clemente's rookie, especially in higher grades, still have not come close to touching those. But it's a terrific question. And in the spirit of the question is correct if I'm properly reading it, which is that there are a lot of vintage cards that have exceeded their 2016 all-time highs. So that is true. But if you want an example, go on Card Ladder, look up Roberto Clemente.
And I can add that, you know, I've been buying cards consistently, you know, for you know, on eBay for 20 years. And I was buying cards in 2016 and I was buying vintage baseball in 2016. And I bought a Roberto Clemente in 2016, I believe it was, along with a bunch of other Hall of Fame baseball rookies. I bought a Bill Mazeroski. Is that who it was? The Pittsburgh Pirate, right? Yeah. I bought his card and I paid way more than I should have. And then the card went down in value and I don't know if it's bounced back yet. So there's an example of a card I bought then, but I'll tell you, I'm confident that by the time I do dispose of that card, it will have reached that all-time high. I'm probably the high payer on that card in that grade back in 2016. So I remember that time very clearly. And 2020 has felt a little bit like 2016, except that it's different because there's so much more supporting the hobby now than there was in 2016. I think there was maybe a bit of buyers groups going on and trying to, I don't know if it was necessarily manipulation as much as it was people buying stuff up, running up the prices, and then they filled their quota, and now things kind of normalized again. I don't see that happening. I don't see that in 2020, but I definitely saw that then. Cool question, Tiger Jordan. Thank you for that. Let's see what else we have here. Rodman wants to know, when is the Card Ladder app going to be available?
Oh, excellent question. I will DM you the date, man, because that's not public information yet, but suffice it to say it will be very soon.
Awesome. Card Porn's question, I think the basic, he's okay. Following on the discussion about how different card grading companies grade, how do you calculate the price differences between PSA 10 and 9.5? And the answer is you track them separately. They're not the same card in your database. So they're tracked separately, right? Simple as that?
Yep.
Right on, right on. Sports Card Analytics says, to make a purchase in real time, I'd use this is back to, I guess, the show question. I'd use recent eBay comps. Card Ladder is more for identifying trends and cards being overlooked to buy. Card Ladder isn't the end all be all. Use every resource. Yeah, well said. Bobby Burrell says, Worth Point has a very low percentage of the true recorded sales. I use it for a year, and most of the items that even I personally sold over 10 years didn't show up in the searches. And that's why you have to use many different sources.
It's funny too. People who use WorthPoint especially will know this. Its search bar is such a pain in the ass. It searches item descriptions unless you like manually turn that off, and it's like super sensitive to certain search terms and very not sensitive to other ones. It's a real pain, and I agree. WorthPoint is certainly a terrific tool, but it is not by any means comprehensive.
Fair. Rodman says, I'm a Card Ladder user, and I can tell you I check eBay sold listings all the time. The beauty about Card Ladder is you get a complete sale history. With eBay, you only get 3 months. That's an interesting point by Rodman, because, you know, does it really matter over 90 days? Like, if I'm out buying a card at a card show, do I really care what it sold for in times that are so far in the past that it's like the market is different? The last 90 days is a much better reflection of the market today. I mean, that's just a theological kind of idea, but you know, how important is, like, it's nice to look at graphs over time, especially when we're looking out into the future to see where the hobby could go. Literally take 30 seconds and address that, Chris.
Well, suppose we wanted to create an index.
Not going to be 30 seconds.
Suppose that we wanted to create an index that tracked the performance of sports cards over an extended period of time. by assembling an all-time sales history, hypothetically, we could do that because we have the data set in place to retroactively craft that index. That's just one of a number of perks that makes the assemblage of an all-time sales history more than merely cosmetic. But I will admit that the cosmetic dimension of it, just being able to know that at the click of a button, I could just go look at the thousands of times the 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. PSA 10 has sold, just satisfies some data nerd impulse in me that I think also resonates with a lot of other people. And then to the point about the 3-month thing, there are a number of cards in our database, particularly because we have a lot of users who are high-end collectors, whether it's vintage or modern, but they collect rare cards. And rare cards don't sell very frequently. They don't sell. Sometimes they sell once a year. So in that case, relying on a 90-day sales window and having the scope of it narrowed only to eBay and not including all these other great auction houses is just going to be unsatisfying, to say the least. Having in mind the fact that, we really have a lot of great collectors who use our site, it was a no-brainer from day one for us to say, we're going to take the time to build the all-time sales history of every card in our database.
Yeah. Awesome. SnapCX wants to know, what are the excellent Facebook groups? SnapCX, feel free to message me on Instagram or Facebook. I'll even put my my Instagram, where to go? Right there. You can message me Instagram, send me a message on Twitter, wherever you want, and I'm happy to send you that offline. I just don't want to forget anybody, and they're not coming to me off the top of my head anyway. Carvin Chung says, what up, Jeremy, Chris, Josh, and Christina? What up, Carvin? Great to see you, buddy. I was watching Carvin do a lot of comments on crossover last night.
What's up, Carvin?
But he was killing it last night, like really dropping the knowledge. So good stuff, Carvin.
An absolute encyclopedia of knowledge.
He is. And Carvin will be my guest 2 Saturdays from now. Carvin, we are confirmed for we were up in the air the 16th to the 23rd. I booked someone else on the 23rd. Carvin, you are my man on the 16th. Let's see what else. Ziggy reminds everybody, thumbs up, tip your host, 90 watching. Let's go. Thanks, Ziggy. Appreciate that. Tiger Jordan says, I love the Card Ladder article and news feed. Nicely centralizes latest industry content. I really enjoy that too. I use it as a portal, if you will. To
allow me to give a hat tip to the great Frankie 3500. Definitely a loyal fan of Sports Cards Live. One of the greatest hobbyists I've ever known. He has authored a number of terrific articles that he gave Card Ladder the great privilege of publishing. But his original work and authorship is outstanding. And if for no other reason, it literally is worth clicking the news feed, the content feed, just to read the stuff that he wrote, because it's outstanding.
Yeah, I don't know Frankie 3500, and I've never met him, but I have a ton of respect for this guy. I like his articles. I really enjoyed when he was interviewed by Jake on 90s b-ball cards. I learned a lot about basketball cards, and I walked away like, this is my guy, like Frankie 35, like you're my guy, man. Sort of
the ideal. He is. Yeah. If we ever somebody needed a role model in the hobby to emulate, follow and try and be like Frankie.
Yeah, and a lot of these, when I make a comment like that, it's based on what I've seen, and a lot of it is based on my Instagram interactions and people I follow, accounts I follow, and you see people sharing their experiences and their insights, and that's why I would make that call or that judgment, if you will, on whether or not I have a lot of respect for somebody. I like this comment from Jordan. He says, that smile for talking about data, right? Like you can just tell when a nerd is a nerd.
Kindred spirits, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yamwax says, Jeremy, please submit your Dr. Beckett rookie to Card Ladder. I'll upvote it for sure. Consider it done, Yam. Consider it done. Okay, let's see what else we got. Here's a question from Seb. He says, would a hockey, I'm reading this as I go, Chris, so we can read it together, but would hockey rookie cards from 90, 91, 92 that did 4X in the last weeks be on Card Ladder, even if manipulation were obvious? Four-shop corners to reseller to boom them. What's happened is there are some recent hockey cards that have gone 4X in the last few weeks. I mean, why would they not be on Card Ladder, except that no one has submitted them to get there? Like they would be on there, would they not? If someone wanted,
we were faced with some tough choices about a night or two ago, or maybe 3 or 4 nights ago now. Mike Modano, PSA 10 rookie, and Pavel Bure, PSA 10 rookie. Both of those cards, I think it was in a PWCC auction, set kind of staggering all-time highs. They were not 4X. They were more like 180% increase over the prior sale. And I think in the case of one of them, we excluded it. In the case of the other one, we kept it. But what ultimately happened was, and this is what happens with PSA 10 rookie cards that, you know, have at least a few copies in the pop report, is that more sales came in, and the further sales were much more in line with where the market was beforehand. But those are really tough questions, no doubt about it. And you never want to, you hate this. It gets tough. It gets tricky. It gets real tricky when Mike Modano's card is like nearly doubled overnight. What happened here?
He's been retired for 10 years, and
but it happens. I mean, you know, it happens. So, you know, it's tough. Those situations get tough. And when it is tough, we usually err on the side of admitting it. And then, you know, if, you know, retroactively we look a week later and the card's relisted or something, then we'll go ahead and pull it.
You do know that Carlos's ears just perked right up when we're talking about Mike Modano, right? That's his main guy that he collects. Carlos.
What's up, Carlos? Shout out Carlos, man.
From the Because I'm Carlos YouTube channel. Card porn, a really important question. Who does more work on Card Ladder? Josh, Chris, or Christina? I got to think y'all do, no?
I don't know. It's kind of a tie. And you got to, you know, something. I won't spill too many beans, but some of the stuff that Josh does on the spur of the moment, you know, nobody cares about our sob stories, but I'll tell you, man, we have stuff come up once a week, once every 2 weeks, where it looks like the whole thing is going to crash. And Josh fixes it, and he comes up with a solution within an hour. You know, the other day we stumbled into a problem, and Josh like, yeah, I don't know, let me have some time. He comes back in 2 hours, and he's like, yeah, I just taught myself a new coding language, and I completely solved the problem. Don't worry about it. So, you know, when you have a guy like that, I just 1 hour of Josh's work is worth an infinite amount of the next best person who could do that job. So it's just hard to quantify it like that.
I just taught myself a new computer programming language. Don't worry, I got this. Oh, God.
That's Josh.
Mind blowing. Carvin says, any possibility to track wax boxes and even cases in the near future? Could this be something to add for the future, or even in your plans?
We do track boxes, and that's thanks partially to Christina's affinity for wax. But we have a number of boxes. We have hundreds of boxes, including many exquisite boxes. I shouldn't say many. We have, you know, maybe a dozen, maybe half a dozen exquisite boxes. You know, of course, exquisite comes to mind, being that Carvin is the author of this comments. But those boxes sell for extraordinary amounts of money. We have 6 exquisite boxes, 07, 06, 05, 04, 03, and 09 basketball exquisite boxes are in the database.
Very cool. So there you go, Carvin. For anyone who doesn't know, Carvin Chung, whose name is on the screen right now, in his little avatar there, standing right beside the Stanley Cup. Carvin worked for Upper Deck. He created Exquisite. He created the Cup, and then he worked for Panini, and he was integral with some Dominion products there for hockey. And now he's with GTS, and he will be my guest on the channel 2 weeks from today. Native Card Guy says past sales are so important with low numbered cards, and we need that in the hobby. Definitely agree, and that's what Card Ladder provides to the extent that the cards are in the database. Hockey Hawk says we need 2 of the greatest goaltenders of all time in the ladder: Dominic Hasek, Martin Brodeur. Martin Brodeur is the all-time wins leader. Could not agree with him more on this. Those are 2 guys that I believe should be in there. So write those down.
Write them down, baby.
Write them down. AO Rhino hits us with a super sticker and says, just wanted to say, love both your guys' content. Keep it up, guys. Thanks. That's really nice to hear. Thank you so much. It's nice to get compliments. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but I got to admit, it's nice to hear. So thank you. It's nice to know that what you're doing is appreciated. So thank you, AO Rhino. Much appreciated. Brian Kingsley says, how many collectors, investors are actively involved in the hobby at this time? 110 million. Any educated guesses? Let me say, the best person, I believe, to answer this question is Ken Golden from Golden Auctions, because he does have what I understand to be the biggest mailing list in the industry. So, he might be the best guy to ask. And he's been on the show before, and I'm sure I'll have him on again. So save it for him, Brian. But I'm not even going to venture a guess. Chris, do you even want to make a guess? No, too tough to do, but interesting question, Brian. Lou Zare says, if I don't watch now, I'll be bombarded by 80 ads in the first 10 minutes of this video. Come on, Jeremy. We got you to where you are. Why are you doing us like that? You hadn't, Lou Zare, you had nothing to do with getting me to where I've gotten. So, you I don't know why you think you did that, but you in particular. But no, I do appreciate the comment. And yeah, the ads are something on YouTube that, I monetize my channel when I hit 1,000 subscribers, because I don't get paid to do this. I do have one sponsor, which I'm very grateful for, but it's one of those things where I don't want to charge a membership fee. I don't want to do a Patreon. Nothing against anyone that does. It's just not my style to do that. I don't want to charge anybody for featured content. I want to do the show. I want to do it because I love to do it. And, if there's ads, all the ads I have are skippable. I don't have any scads that are not skippable. So you just wait those 5 seconds and click skip the ad. And, if you don't want to watch it in reruns or in syndication, as I like to say, I respect that, Lou Zare. I don't really care if you don't. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Brian Kingsley, Medano makes Carlos happy. No doubt. Hockey, Lou Zare, unfair comment. Yeah, I mean, not so much an unfair comment, just a very selfish comment, I think, more than anything. Where's Carlos? Shout out to Carlos on Medano. Everyone knows Carlos collects Medano. Excuse me, guys. Another great interview, Jeremy. I'm going to watch it later on the replay. Thank you, Dexful. I hope you don't mind all the ads, and if you do, I apologize. And if somebody out there like Lou Zare, you want to send me $1,000, Lou, I'll cancel the ads. I promise you. Just email me $1,000. We'll get her done.
Crowdfund. I'll contribute to that crowdfund.
We'll get her done, Lou. We'll get her done. Let's see. Native Card Guy says, what are we going to see with new companies grading so tough like MNT and the price being so low and PSE being the problem with MNT, Native Card Guy, is that they're not even on the radar in the market right now. Unfortunately, they're just not even, and nothing against them. They're a Canadian company, which I'm a Canadian, so I wish them all the best. I just think they're in a competitive market with giants that they're competing with, and they're going to get some regional business. And they're also, as I understand, a one-man show. And I don't know what that one man's experience is to authenticate and grade cards. So I think for the PSA, Beckett, SGC, CSG, I mean, these guys are the true market for it. And MNT is a great service, I'm sure, cheaper, a great alternative. But they're just not on the radar, unfortunately. And part of it is because they're in Canada. Let's see what else we have here. Super 25 says, what a great night of content with Josh and Chris. The only thing missing is an after hours with Christina. You hear that, Christina? Maybe one day.
Say so. Speak. She's here.
I'm here.
She's here.
I'm here. So
there you go. Now she's part of this content too.
That's funny. Seb says, I bet Josh is the one who works harder because he looks tired. And then Josh says, no, that's just my face. Ask my wife. Hilarious. Some more important cards to add. Martin Brodeur, Zygmunt Palffy, Teemu Solani, Eric Lindros, Sergei Fedorov, Jack Morris, Michael Ray Richardson, Bert Blyleven. I mean, that's the thing. These wish lists, Chris, everyone's going to have a different one for you. And I know you guys are the kind you'd love to satisfy everybody. Why wouldn't you, right? You want your database to be as robust as it can possibly be, so that it can be a tool that is a go-to tool for the whole hobby. I think you guys are limited by your time and just the hours in the day, but you guys, they do add cards. And if you request it, especially I think if you're a member or a user, a customer, they're going to add them for you. So really good. But great list of players too. I love the inclusion of Ziggy Palffy, one of my all-time favorite players. Carlos says, it's like the Force. When there are Medano all-time highs, I sensed a disturbance. I may not always comment, but I'm listening. I knew your ears were perking up, Carlos. I knew your ears were perking up. Vegas Finds reminds us to not forget Jaromir Jagr, who is the second all-time leading scorer in professional, in NHL hockey.
We do have Jagr, definitely. We have plenty of Gretzky RCs as well, in numerous grades, I should say. When I say plenty, we have like a lot of we're building up the young guns. We have I'm so terrible with hockey names. We've got Lemieux. That's not Young Guns. But we have Lemieux. We do have Belfour. Dominic Kubalik. Keep scrolling. Let me see some of these other ones we have.
I can tell you guys have McDavid. You have Matthews. Yep. You have
Matthews is a big one too.
You got the big ones.
Crosby.
Ovechkin.
Ovechkin. Christina's new favorite. Ovechkin. Austin Matthews, right? We just added the new guy too. Well, he was added a few weeks ago. There's a new kid. You were talking about him on your show not that long ago, and that kind of what was prompted me to add his card. He hasn't even hit the ice yet, but he's a prospect, and his raw Young Guns is trading for about $200, like 10 to 12 times a day. It feels like.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. You can spit out some more after. Native Card Guy makes a great point to, I forget the gentleman's name who was complaining about ads on my channel, but you need to pay for YouTube so you don't get the ads. And Carlos pays for YouTube. I know it because he brags about it almost, because I'm like, man, whenever I'm watching YouTube on my phone, I can't do anything else on my phone. He's like, YouTube Premium. And Carlos, so I've just been too cheap to do it myself, but for anyone else, hey, it's an option, and it's a great option for sure. Hockey, Jeremy and Chris, have you guys ever considered doing paid live speaking tours about sports cards? I've never considered anyone would even want to pay me for that. So the answer is no, but hey, thanks for the vote of confidence. I do appreciate that. Vegas Fine says the sad thing these days is that if you don't monetize it, YouTube will monetize it anyway, and you'll get zilcho. Well said. Carlos says regarding the ads, YouTube automatically generates when the ads appear on the live stream. Sometimes there's a glitch, but there's little control over it unless it's manually adjusted. Thanks for the info, Carlos. Yeah, there's Carlos. Popular guy, Carlos. Popular guy. Charles says, yeah, Jeremy really built this up. The fact he does this for free is amazing. Pure gold here. Thank you very much, Charles. Native Card Guy says, but Giants are starting to sell out and making greeting cards so dang expensive that is becoming unwantable. Okay, fair comment. Hockey says, Chris, should the Bobby Hull statue be removed from United Center for his past atrocities?
I do not know even remotely enough to comment intelligently on that topic.
Yeah, my answer is no to that. I mean, yeah, but that's another topic for another day. Hockey then says, Chris, what if Mark Cuban makes you an offer for Card Ladder? Are you open for business?
The answer to that question is just no comment.
Fair. Carvin says, this discussion gives me chills. Not enough time to anyone, team, company to address the community wants and feedback. Yeah, exactly. That's not reminds me of the Q&A sessions of the Sports Card Expo in Toronto, distributor meetings, brick and mortar focus panels. Yeah, it was one of the first times I met Carvin was actually probably back in, I think this was like maybe 2005, 2004, 5, 6 Carvin. I mean, this was early, probably 05. We were at the Sports Card Expo, Chris, and Upper Deck, Carvin, and I think Chris Carlin might have been there too, had a round table. And it was a small room, 3 round tables, and a bunch of collectors and some early breaker. Like this is the early breaking days. There might have been 2 breakers in the world. Probably Firehand and Klutz and Chera were the only guys doing it at the time. And we sat around the room, and I actually videotaped it. Now I still have those tapes, but I videotaped this thing. Okay.
What?
Yeah,
that's premium content.
I know. It's on an old laptop somewhere. Oh,
you should upload that or let somebody edit it, or I don't know. That sounds awesome.
It's not of the highest quality, but it's pretty funny actually. And I remember Carvin was like kind of leading this discussion and pulling out information from a lot of the a lot of the participants. And I just remember, it's kind of totally random, but one of the topics we were talking about was it was like the rise of the parallel, and like why so many now parallels have gone pretty crazy, but we were talking about multiple parallels, like 4 or 5 was like a lot back then. And I remember this discussion about parallels. And I remember Carvin saying people want bigger checklist for their player collection, something to that effect. Carvin was saying. Carv, you're listening, so you can maybe remember and straighten me out here, but it was something like people want to be able to chase more cards. He goes, Jeremy wants as many Howard Chucks as he can find. And I was kind of like, well, sort of. I don't want to, I want the best of the parallels, maybe not all of them, but anyway, just a random memory I have of one of those meetings that he did allude to. We got to get more of those happening. Joe says, is the new show Sports Card Culture geared for any particular audience? It feels like it has the potential to reach a great many people, even those not in the hobby.
Yeah, well, as Josh mentioned in the main event, that the show is the child of Nick, who is one of the key members of the Card Ladder team. The amazing social media graphics that we post every day to Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. He makes every single one of those. And he's a producer of that show and the editor and the cinematographer. He does it all. And his vision for that show could be summarized in a tagline that he came up with, which is Gateway to the Hobby. The point of that show is literally to serve as a means of allowing people to learn about and enjoy the hobby, especially if maybe they don't have that much experience with it. So it is difficult sometimes to make content that can both satisfy the veteran collector and newcomers. But I find that even veterans sometimes appreciate seeing the hobby through the eyes of a newcomer. I sure do. It can be enlightening sometimes. So, the goal of that show is definitely to be as inclusive as possible and just to have a lot of fun and to make content about stuff that we're passionate about. I think that's always at the end of the day going to be the key to great content is just, hey, we love talking about sports cards. We'll do it on a camera. We'll do it off camera. It doesn't matter. I don't know.
I think it's time for a network like an ESPN or a Sports Center or what. I mean, we've got Sports Center and TSN up here. You've got ESPN and what else down in the States? What's the other big?
FS1.
So it's time for ESPN to pick up a weekly installment. And I almost think that what you guys are doing is like, hey, ESPN, here we are, come pick us up. Like, and that's why I sent you a message when I first saw it. I'm like, dude, that production quality was awesome. And by the way, you know who your hockey card guy is when you need to pull in the hockey card guy, right?
That's right. 100%. 100%. Yeah. You're gonna be. I said you're gonna be the Barry Melrose of the show.
You did say that. That. I'll take it. I'll take it for sure. Slob's baseball collecting reminds everybody that nothing is free. Yeah, that's pretty true for the most part. Hockey says, how did baseball go from being the card of choice historically to now being flat compared to basketball? And I'm going to take that one first, Chris, because it's true. Like what I learned from having Jeremy Murray, the VP of grading for Beckett, on a while back, and then from listening to eBay on a couple of broadcasts they were on. I think they were on both of Sports Card Investors' virtual shows. And between both of those sources, I learned that I believe, and if I remember correctly, basketball is 60% of the market right now, up from like 30. Hockey went from, I believe, 4 to 8, and baseball like shrunk. And I don't think it's so much that the market has shrunk. I think that basketball has blown the F up. I think that's really what it is. And let's face it, basketball is way more fun to watch than baseball. Just like hockey is way more fun to watch than baseball. I mean, these are just my opinions, of course. And yes, I'll hype up hockey all I can. And football is a great sport to watch, but there's really very little action when over a 3-hour sitting session. But it's definitely strategic and really exciting. So anyway, I think that's good for that. Carvin wants me to burn those old tapes. I can't find them. Carvin, I don't think I can find them, buddy. Rodman says, question for Jeremy and Chris. Are you guys still active on Blowout? What is the future for these types of forums? You go first because my answer is going to take longer.
Sure. No, Definitely not active because I think Instagram is time consuming enough. It takes up enough of my hobby time, and I just respect, admire, and trust more than a sufficient number of people to occupy me for a long, long time. But I think it still does serve an important purpose. I think there still can be, it can be a great vessel for the dissemination of important information in a very shareable format. And I do think there will always be a future for that type of information sharing.
Yeah, for me, I've never been a big user of Blowout, Rodman. I have to thank Blowout because it did introduce me to Rodman very early on in my MJ collecting, and I've said it many times. Rodman welcomed me to that segment of the hobby with open arms and really made me feel just welcome. I don't know how else to put it. I like Blowout for some of the data that's in there. Like there's a great thread in there on all the pack odds of the 90s inserts. I have that bookmarked. I have another bookmark to blow out for rookie cards of the non-big four sports. So if you're ever looking for rookies of, kind of goats from other sports, there's a thread in there that addresses it directly. What I don't, and I also love it for the BODA, these blowout detectives who are finding trimmed cards always that are for sale. Before I go buy a card on eBay, especially if it's from one of the consignment especially from PWCC or Probstein, I do a search in blowout to see if the card I'm targeting has been deemed to be trimmed, because these guys will produce evidence on that. So that's what I like it for. What I don't like it for are all the keyboard warriors, and it's rife with them. All that said, Rodman, and I do own one of these websites called hobbyinsider.net. It is an online message board community that I've owned since 2012. That's been in existence since 2003, and has a very loyal and active group of collectors. Now, I'm not as active a participant on it as I used to be, but it still lives on. The platform we're on is 2003's V Bulletin, so it's not even supported anymore. And but it's got a loyal following, and they love their time there. And so I think there's a future. But that's the kind of thing that I'm not putting any resources in, because there's no ROI on it for me. It's I run it for the better for these people that are that are members of it. But eventually, when they all stop, I'm just going to let this thing die a natural death, and that'll be the end of it. So I think there's a longer life for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, maybe even TikTok, definitely YouTube versus those. Native Card Guy says, what I want is for Upper Deck to make the bonus packs better, something like tops with autos and parallels. Fair request. Bobby Burrell says, like early breakdancing days. Bobby, I don't know what that's in reference to, but I bet it was funny in the moment. Carvin says, the PC collectors need a challenge. If their collections are easy to finish, there wasn't any effort. Collectors don't value it. Yeah, good point, Carvin. Great point, actually. Player collectors. I know several player collectors of recent, however, where the list has got too long and they're like, I'm done. They're not done altogether, but they're no longer completionists. Hockey Hawk says, who's the second most important player after Michael Jordan that competed for a Chicago-based team? And he gives a bunch of options. I mean, you don't have Jonathan Taves on there, but you do have Patrick Kane. I don't know the answer to that. Do you have a quick answer, Chris?
That list could definitely use Walter Payton.
Oh. Refrigerator Perry?
The fridge, yeah. 85 Bears. I don't know. That's a great question. Great question.
Scottie Pippen. Great list of athletes, though. Carvin says, finding a white whale is a monumental accomplishment. Do collectors even know what is a white whale? I don't know. Good question. But any comments on that, Chris?
I think most player collectors do have white whales, or at least I would hope. I sure have some. Yeah,
no doubt. Card Porn, we'd like to thank you guys, Jeremy, Chris, Christina, Josh, and company, for all you do. It's a tough gig, and people like to complain about everything. No doubt. Much of the recent upturn is attributable to you guys. Wow, that's high praise. Thank you very much. And I definitely do try to promote the cards that I like. By promote, I mean sharing on my stories. I've started sharing a lot on my stories, and it's mostly hockey cards because I love the looks of them, and they're the coolest looking cards going. If I might biasly say so. And if you like them, keep on following me. But thank you for that compliment. Chris, anything to say?
That's an incredibly generous statement.
Thank you very much for that card porn. Carvin Chung says, Barry Melrose, Jeremy needs a wig. Yeah, no doubt about it. Vegas Fine says, those opinions are fact, sir. Hockey and basketball. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with you on that. Hockey says, blowout looks like it's mostly disgruntled collectors and boomers. Well, there's a lot of negativity on message boards in general. I find it's a great place to if you want to kind of get down on things, if you want to get down on the hobby a lot of the time, if you're thinking about leaving the hobby, go read the message boards. You might just find the door. You might just be motivated to walk through it. Terry says the Blowout Detective Agency is always a good read, and those guys do a great service. So when I say what I just said, I that is a certain exception to it. I don't have a question, but I want to see the Temu gloves again. Sure thing. There's the Temu glove. These are game-worn Temu Solani gloves from 92, 93, 94 in that era. Yep. There you go, Seb. There you go. Oscar Dad says, I still use old Beckett's for insert pack odds. Yeah, great resource for that. Carvin says, also basketball is an international sport. Lots of submissions come from international collectors. Soccer and hockey have more international appeal. That is, yeah, I agree with that. Of note, baseball and football are hard sports to understand for collectors outside of North America, right? Because football might be soccer, baseball might be cricket. Like there's all sorts of things there. Terry says, Carvin, baseball and football are hard for collectors in North America. Superbad says, do you guys still use Beckett's Price Guide magazine? I do not use Beckett's Price Guide magazine. No, I haven't used it in a very, very long time because the price guide is just not timely, in my opinion, and no one person can keep on top of all the cards. So I think it's a good reference point. If there's, to me, it's like a last resort. If I can't find a comp or any indication of a value of a card, and I'm at a card show and someone wants to sell something to me, it's like, okay, where's the Beckett? It's like, okay, I got it. It's like, I need to use the Beckett. It'll tell me it'll give me some guidance on the card. So that makes, yeah. And Justin Inventory says, Fleer has PMG coming out this year. Well, Upper Deck has Skybox Metal Universe Hockey coming out in April. Ooh. And it's my favorite product of the decade, and I haven't even seen it yet, and I cannot wait to get it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
That.
Platinum Portraits, Jambalayas, a couple others that are just going to like rock the hobby, man.
Dude, that's huge.
It's huge.
Huge.
It's huge. Seb says Beckett Mag is now like Playboy only for the articles. Yeah, and that's fine, right? I mean, you want articles. You want articles. But yeah, the price guide, good for pack odds, but for pricing, it's a lot of old schoolers still use it at the card shows, and a lot of store owners will use it as well. Terry says, I wonder what Jeremy's wife thinks when he wears those Temu gloves to bed. Yeah, she'd just kick me until I fell off, probably. Hockey. If Luka Doncic ends up becoming the singular GOAT, that's a big goal. Will the high pop counts of his PSA 10 rookie Prism base card be valued as high as it is now in 50 years? I can't imagine it. Junk slab. Am I wrong? I'll let you take this one, Chris.
Oh, man. All I know is that Pop 15,000 is incredibly high. And, it's also has to be contextualized by noticing that Luka has many other rookie cards as well. So even if you wanted to compare it to like the 86 Fleer set or something, which like last I checked, PSA is graded 250,000-ish cards from that set, and PSA is graded like 150,000, maybe more, from the 2018 Prism set. I mean, in 2018 Prism is just one set among 30 basketball sets that came out that year, versus 86 Fleer being like the only pack issued Michael Jordan rookie card. No disrespect to the 84 Star guys, because I see the argument for that card too, but it's just really hard to fathom what it means that there are 15,000 PSA 10s of that card. And if I read the spirit of the question correctly, it's kind of saying, it's going to be pretty darn difficult for a card with that many copies, even if a player who's the best player of all time, to have a really strong long-term market. And I don't know. It really, on the one hand, like I obviously feel where that question's coming from, but on the other hand, it's obviously just a question of supply and demand. There was a question earlier, how many collectors are there? And I think you accurately said, let's just defer to somebody like Ken Golden on a question like that. Is a great answer. But that's really what's going to answer that question. Are there sufficient collectors who will want to add that, a sufficient number of them? I mean, that's just the answer to it. So that question, really what that question is asking is how many people are going to be in the hobby, and of them, how many are going to want that card? And I have no freaking clue.
Well, I don't have a clue, but I have a bit to say about that. I mean, because the question, the preamble of the question is if Luka ends up becoming the singular GOAT. Okay, if that's the case, 15,000 cards will not even be close to enough. I don't think 15,000 is as big of a number that everybody else thinks. Everybody else thinks it's such a huge number, and I mean, some commentary I've heard. It's referred to as a huge number because it's being compared to other cards in the, of years past and this, recent times as well. You compare it to Michael Jordan's, you compare it to Kobe, you compare it to LeBron's. You can get more than 15,000 people into the game to watch him play. How can those people not want to own his rookie card? Okay, so maybe 45% of them are women. There's fewer women in the hobby. It's just the facts. So take them out. Maybe they don't want it because maybe their boyfriend, husband, son, father already has it. But still, that's only one arena in one city, in one country. I mean, I'm a guy sitting here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, right? I have one. It's not available. And I'm a guy in Calgary. Like, trust me, I'm not the only guy in Calgary that I know, because I sold one to another guy in Calgary, right? He went and got it graded and it came back at 10 after I sold it to him for $100 a year ago. So I think 15,000 is not a huge number. And especially considering how big the hobby is now, and we don't even know how big it is, but we know it's a lot bigger than it was before. I think 15,000 copies could easily get gobbled up, especially when you consider there's a few singular people that are sitting on dozens, hundreds. So the float of those 15, it's not 15,000 available. There's a difference between population and float, a concept I've only heard myself ever talk about. Population's one thing, float is completely different. And the market is based on the float, not as much the population. Well, it should be if it isn't, I believe. So I just don't think 15,000 is a huge number, Chris. I think that, I think 100,000 is a bigger number. But even, I mean, you got 350 million people in the United States, you got 30 million people in Canada, and then you got Asia, and then you got Europe, and then you got South America. You got Rodman in South America, right? You got these people collecting all over the world. 15,000 is nothing. I remember in 1990, there was like one of the first numbered cards. It was out of 10,000. And that was thought like, oh my God, there's only 10,000 of them. I'm never going to get one of these. Sure. Now we're saying 15,000 is going to ruin a market. And I'm not saying anyone said that tonight, but I think in time, we're going to learn that 15,000 is maybe big relative to other cards in the hobby. But I think because I think that everybody who is a sports fan should be collecting cards and might one day be collecting cards if you have some extra money. If you have a cap or a jersey, or you're buying tickets and going to games, or you've ever bet on a sports game or bought a ticket, done DFS or fantasy sports, you're going to find your way to this hobby, and 15,000 is not going to be enough. So, I mean, I know it's a hot take, but that's my hot take of the night. Chris, please respond.
My response is just, man, I love that answer. And like you accurately pointed out, if we accept the premise is true, the Luka becomes the singular GOAT, it's hard to find a flaw with your analysis there. And I do share your optimism. Sometimes, we kind of, we drudge through, and we get sucked into the pessimism of, kind of being excessively humble about what the hobby is. But at the end of the day, I just felt the vigor and the passion for the hobby and what you just said, and the joy that collecting brings me. And I do see the potential for, a very scalable number of people to enjoy sports cards. And if you're talking about the singular GOAT, I mean, his key base rookie card is definitely going to be one that everybody should have in their collection. It was funny. I was talking about that card the other day, and someone asked me, like, how many do you have? And I was like, well, I have one. I have a PSA 10. And I was like, no, wait, I also have a BGS 9.5 True Gem. It's like, oh, wait, no, I also have one in my binder of my 2018 Prism Complete set. And then, I also have another one that me and Christina got signed by Luka in person at a game. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I'm like just taking this card for granted a little bit, because actually, like, it has a number of important roles. Like the PSA 10 is the investment piece. The BGS 9.5 is similar. But then that card's also part of a very important set, and we built the whole set of 2018 Prism. And then it's also like part of, we got it autographed by Luka in person. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm a little higher on this card than I thought I was, just looking at my actions and not my words.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's, like you said, if he's the true GOAT, 50 years from now, he'll be remembered. He'll be relevant still. And 15,000 copies won't be enough. Foul 5 Ball says Beckett's are good bathroom reading. And I mean, hey, many magazines are. Why not? It's a great place to read, no matter what it is. Here's a question. This one is from Rodman. It could take some time, but because it's late and I want to get through some more comment. How are you doing for time, Chris? I want to see how much more time do you want to go?
Oh, I should take a leak sooner than later. So I don't know, man. 15 more minutes and we're good.
All right. Okay. So let's do that. Guys, I'm going to ask you to, if you can, maybe slow down on the comments so I can get through. We're currently 9 minutes behind. So Chris, when looking at sales charts, August to September spike always stands out. Any idea what happened there?
Yeah, it was just an absolute bull rush on the hobby. And it was spreading through a lot of channels very quickly. And it just got out of control for a little while there. And then it was also very scary to look at and to experience as a person looking at thousands of sales every day, to experience October and November, which by any traditional definition of the term crash, the market for many cards absolutely crashed. And now it's been exhilarating to watch December, which by any definition of the term has been, in the concept of a financial market, it's been a rebound of the most epic proportions. And, we've only been doing this for 6 months or so, but the data that we look at indicates that December was maybe the most robust month the hobby has ever had. So it really is a testament to the longevity of the hobby that we overcame a terrifying crash. And in fact, the second crash of the year, because there was also a crash back when sports leagues were canceled that lasted for a little while. So if there ever was a testament to the durability of the hobby, there are two sterling examples that happen right there. But I do hope we can smooth out the ride a little bit as people get more acclimated and they get less excitable and sort of ease into a more longer term mindset.
I hope so too, but I just want to kind of prepare everybody to expect more of these ups and downs, maybe not to the same magnitude, but expect ups and downs. They're never going to stop, ever. We're going to get them until the time is finished in this hobby. Oscar Dad says, I'm a basketball collector, but thanks to Jeremy, I will be picking up Hockey Fleer Metal Universe. Now, just to be clear, I appreciate that, Oscar Dad, but it's not Fleer, it's Skybox Metal Universe. I said to them, use Fleer. They went with Skybox. It's a good second, but I think we'll see Fleer products in hockey in the future because they're going to finally recognize that they just need to, because we want to grow. Basketball collectors love Fleer. And that's a great way to expand the hockey market, is with basketball collectors. Christina reminds everybody, Card Ladder has a blog. You can see all the amazing articles written by talented collectors for free at cardladder.com. Seb says, if Luka cards tank, it would scare every new collector that put a fortune into it. So I hope it won't. Yeah, fair comment. We hope that Luka stays healthy. That's the key. But that's the risk inherent with collecting any modern star, current star. Oscar Dad says, I think pop counts for Luka, Zion, etc. will continue to rise. Wait till the PSA gets the backlog sorted. Yeah. I mean, fair comments. Another thing is Zion will continue to, I think you mean the pops will continue to rise. Yes, I agree with that. Seb says, I hope someday there's enough collectors so top 20 players by era stay sustainable and not only the GOATs. I agree. Carvin says, it's a moot point. Luka will not be the GOAT. Chris and Jeremy are right. It's supply and demand. Yeah, I think it's a moot point too. I mean, it's going to be hard for anyone to take MJ off that throne, if you will. And I know there's plenty of debates about it, but we'll just go with it for now. Peter Chow says, can you define float? Yes, I can. The float are the amount of cards in the population that are actually available for sale or trade. A lot of those numbers in those populations are locked up for a long time in collectors' collections. They're in the population, but they're not available in the float. Hockey says the Griffey 89 Upper Deck has seen a big surge in value in 2020. Is a PSA 10 pop count of 3,900 too high to sustain, or is this much needed recognition? The rise of junk, I think it's a bit of both. Much needed recognition, but I do not think that 3,900 is too high to sustain. I think 3,900 is very low. How many baseball collectors are there? How many Griffey fans are there? How many Seattle Mariners fans are there? How many Cincinnati Reds fans are there? How many Hall of Fame collectors are there? I mean, way more than 3,900. Now, not everyone can afford a PSA 10, so there's other options, but I think there's enough that can. Sean Doherty says 15,000 pop will be 100,000 in a few years, especially with how backed up PSA is. It's possible. 100,000 is a big number. It might get there. Don't know. You were kind of chuckling, Chris. Anything particular you want to mention?
Yeah, there's obviously some hyperbole there, but the point is well taken that there is an enormous backlog at PSA, and nobody really knows what's in there. So, that's kind of double-edged sword of PSA announcing its backlog in general. It's like, on the one hand, hey, that's great. Look at all the demand for grading. But on the other hand, it's like, well, whoa, 1 million card backlog? What card? 1 million? Like, oh my God. So these pop reports are going to be moving.
Yeah. How many of those are Lucas, right? I mean, if it could be 20,000, who knows? Juval says, dude, Chris, you are a monster with these lives, dude. Joe Perot says, wow, now I have a new way of understanding a floater. Serious wisdom, though. Thanks,
dude.
Joe.
I love your explanation. I thought that's a terrific concept, terrific term you've coined. I'll be borrowing it with proper credit given.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Just inventory. I love that. It's a play on a just-in-time inventory. He says there are 15,000 Slovenians that probably want that card. Yeah, right there. Juval says also the chart on the computer behind you makes you look smarter. More charts, the better. Hilarious. Canner Collects, welcome, says 1 million people could want the card. Who's going to pay 2,000 for it? Well, yeah, I hear your point, but my comment wasn't on how many people want it that aren't going to pay for it. It's how many people want it that will pay for it. And the more mainstream cards get, and they're getting more mainstream, the more people that will allocate their precious dollars to a sports card. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. And yeah, it is what matters. But I think that it's going to be more and more and more as the hobby catches on more and more celebrities get involved and influencers and all that. We've seen significant increases in the market, partially due to influencers, including the most famous being Gary Vee. But Gary Vee's only one guy. You got Kevin Durant involved. You've got, several. You got Emmett Smith is involved in the hobby now, and more. They're not coming to mind. I think that the hobby is going to get to a point where if you're a sports fan, you probably collect cards, similar to the way it was in the early 90s. Brian Kingsley says, I've been thinking of how high the hobby population is for a while now. Important question, Brian, but really hard to answer. Okay, we got a bunch of comments here, but we're probably past your 15 minutes here, Chris, but we'll just go to a couple more and then I'll just read through these. Sean Doherty says the pop report is a dynamic report. In 2016, the Jordan rookie was at 220. Now it's 320. Fair comment. Juval says the biggest issue in the hobby right now is the slow dump of modern graded cards that is happening right now. Biggest issue in the hobby? That's arguable, but I appreciate the comment nonetheless. Seb says you're right about pop versus float. Example for Jagger PSA 10. Every serious hockey collector should have one. So 3,000 pop for PSA 10 should be nothing. I agree with that comment. Juval says it's going to flood the market. Yeah, certain cards are going to come down in value once these backlogs are kind of cleared out. It's going to happen, but hopefully there's enough new interest in the hobby because of all of the excitement around it and the headlines and the mainstream activity that we will balance that out. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Oscar says, as the PSA Luka pops keep rising and prices keep rising, there will only be a finite number who will be able to afford the card. So people may want it, but will be priced out. Well, As the pop rises, the price comes down. That's simple supply and demand. And I'm sure you're aware of that, Oscar Dad. So I don't mean to misunderstand your question, but the market will always be in equilibrium. That's how markets work. If they get out of equilibrium, they come back to equilibrium. And equilibrium is a great place to be. And we will, that's just it's a law of economics. If you're not familiar with the laws of equilibrium in the economics context, Google it, because I think you can get more comfortable where things are at in the hobby once you get there. But maybe the demand is there. Exactly. How do you define pop? High pop, 1K. I mean, right now, high pop is a relative term. It could change over time, Jay. But right now, I mean, maybe 5K and higher is a high pop. Chris will have maybe a better understanding of that because you're looking at pops on the regular.
It depends on what card you're talking about.
Generally, just generally average.
John Morant's Prism-based PSA 10 is 13K or close to it. I think Zion is the same. Luka's right up there. Trae Young is coming up on it. But you and I know as Michael Jordan rare insert collectors, hey, some people would consider a PSA 10 pop of 50 to be high for a Michael Jordan insert. So it really depends upon the collector base and the card you're looking at.
Yeah, it's going to be relative to other cards that are sort of in that basket of cards of interest, I suppose. Hockey, Chris, Josh, and Christina are great ambassadors of what is right in the hobby. They don't try to mislead newbies. For that, Card Ladder will always be my go-to. Thanks, Jeremy and Chris. Good night to you, Hockey. Seb says, we stopped the show for Chris to take a leak. Sports cards leak. Nick Davis says, hi to two hobby goats. Nick, all the Jordans 23.
What's up, Nick?
Great to have you, Nick. Great to have you, buddy. Great to have you, buddy. Really, I was a recipient of a random acts of kindness from Nick way back by virtue of a chat group that I'm in with him. DJ Lazy Jeff says, yeah, Chris has been great, but let the man pee. Trading cards. Gary V now has Marvel cards on his radar. Next hobby wave coming. And Paul says, thanks for your time, Chris. Entertaining as always. Look forward to your next visit. And Chris, that is the last comment. We got to the bottom of the comments finally.
Well done.
Man, that's a good time to wrap up. We still have 75 viewers. We're 2 hours and 11 minutes in. But man, this was fun, dude. We covered a lot. I want to thank you for dropping all the wisdom and really for dropping a lot of transparency on what goes on at Card Ladder. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that earlier on and felt like, number one, I understand more about how it works. And number two, if they haven't met you yet, they've met both of you tonight, you and Josh. But it always helps to meet the people behind the brand, behind the product, behind the service, because it helps you maybe gain some trust. And as I said earlier tonight, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't affiliate with Card Ladder if I didn't trust and endorse. I wouldn't affiliate. I wouldn't endorse them if I didn't trust them, respect them, and believe in what they're doing, their mission, and just the people that they are. And I've gotten to know Chris. It's probably been like, man, I mean, it's probably almost 3 years now since we first connected. I can't believe that. Is it 2 or 3? I'm getting confused.
It's gotta be 3. That's a good question. Maybe it's 2. I don't know. It was, I just remember connecting over MJ inserts, and the rest is just history.
Yeah, because you talked about one on your podcast, and I sent you a message like, dude, I'm the one that bought it. That sale was real, right? Something like that.
And I was just like, man, this guy is awesome because you picked up some. You were so. You saw into the future, and you just picked up some of the biggest MJs in that auction. And God, those cards are just huge cards now. I remember Platinum Portraits was one of them. I remember you saying, yeah, I may have paid an all-time high, but I'm pretty happy with it. And, buddy, it looks like an all-time low from where we're sitting today.
Yeah, so that might be one of my best cards now, for sure. Yeah, man. No, that was fun. Chris Noel says, thanks, Chris. Hi, Jeremy. Go, Christina. Thank you, Chris. Great to see you, buddy. Carvin, thanks to you, as always, my friend. Christina. Hey, Chrissy Buckets. Oh, Chrissy Buckets. I saw that name a lot last night on crossover,
nice
didn't I?
Connect that. Okay, nice. What's up, man?
Is that Chris Noel?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Good to see you.
Cover.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Oscar Dad. Great to have you tonight. There we go. Thank you, Chris, again. Carvin says most important is to connecting with good people. Yeah, can't say that enough times. That's why the return of the National and the Sport Card Expos in Toronto are going to be, and regional shows and all that. I mean, it's going to be so great to get card shows back and hang out with each other, meet in person. I came so close to meeting you back in March when I was in Palm Springs for a wedding, and I just couldn't find the time. You know how much I regret and wish I took the time, and
especially now with everything, right?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, exactly. I wish.
Who could have known though? We probably were thinking we were going to see each other at National.
Exactly. I'll see them in 3-4 months anyway. So get to like shake hands for the first time. Now we'll probably never get to shake hands. We'll maybe an elbow bump, right? Maybe an elbow bump. But okay, man. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap it up.
Let me just say one thing, man. I just want to say thank you for having me on, Josh, having Christina on as well. And just congratulations on all your success, dude. And like, you said a lot of kind things about us. I feel the same way about you. And, dude, I'm totally behind you, bro. I was one of the very first subscribers to this channel, and that's a point of pride for me. And I don't know, man, much continued success to you. Just want to say appreciate you having us on.
Hey, man, I appreciate all those kind words. I certainly do. I'm glad that you're an original subscriber. That means a lot because, besides, it's funny. It's just the way the world works, I guess. But my two first hobby contents were Cardboard Chronicles and House of Jordans. I mean, they both, one was when I was at home watching YouTube. The other one I was out going for my walks, right? And yeah, I've said it before. Yeah, it's just funny how the world works. You're listening to a guy on podcast one day, and the next day you're hosting him on your show, and for the third or fourth time, and having fun, talking hobby, and providing some entertainment and drop some knowledge for the community, which we're obviously proud and privileged to be able to do, both of us. So, and thanks to you and to Josh for agreeing to come on. I mean, you don't have to do it, and but it's fun, and it's a great. I think Sports Cards Live has become a really great platform to introduce people to the, I want to say the hobby, but unfortunately my audience isn't big enough to call it the hobby yet, but I hope it grows and we can really continue to deliver this kind of intelligence, if you will, on what's going on in the hobby. Very quickly, Charles says, night guys, first after hours of the new year. Yeah, Charles, thank you. And Charles has been my guest on 2 after hours, and then we've made Charles we had a chat. He's going to come on like probably once every 3 or 4 months on after hours, and he's I call him the sales data analyst. He's competing, right? He's not competing with Card Ladder, but he's really keen on tracking certain cards, mostly vintage hockey, and it's just and he's young, so I'm very happy to have Charles in the audience as a member of the guests of Sports Cards Live and After Hours. Tiger Jordan says, Jeremy and Chris, one of the best ever tonight. Not saying a lot. That is saying a lot because Tiger Jordan's watched a lot of shows on this channel. So thank you very much, Tiger. I appreciate that. Super Bad, thanks to you for tuning in, and we appreciate that. Brian Kingsley, Sports Cards Live, #1. And thank you, Chris and Christina and Josh for the good stuff. Thank you, Brian. Very, very nice. And I appreciated your message earlier today as well, my friend. Okay, dude. We're at the bottom of the comments. Please, no more comments. I'm just kidding. If you want to put them up there, put them up there. I'll bring them up as long as we're saying goodbye. But again, thanks for joining us. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, until next time, I'll quickly mention next Saturday, Dr. Beckett back on the show. Next Saturday, let me just look at my schedule here, guys, just to bring you up to speed very quickly. Next Saturday is Dr. Beckett. My after hours guest is Jay Yokish, who is known for having an amazing Upper Deck Premier Mega Patch collection and just a great collector. Then we have Carvin Chung joining 2 Saturdays from now on the 16th. My guest on after hours that night will be Richard Ho, just a very passionate collector. And after that, we are booked. I mean, we're booked through till February 13th. And more to come and more to announce later. So thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. Hit the thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to Card Ladder as a member and you haven't yet, I'm going to put my affiliate link in the description to the video and in the description for my channel. So it'll be there and you can you can subscribe through there. And if you just want to go subscribe right now and not through my affiliation, I'm totally cool with that as well. All right, Chris. I'll say goodnight to you, but you hang right there. I'm gonna end this. We're gonna end this. I'll let you say goodbye one more time, and good night, everybody.